Ladies and gentlemen, damas y caballeros, people are finally waking up and realizing how toxic our work culture is, realizing that hard work simply means more work, and realizing that there's more to life than just working. And there's been this idea recently called quiet quitting, which is when people do the bare minimum to keep their jobs without going above and beyond. And this has become a hot topic right now where people are feeling powerless over their lives and their jobs, and the only thing that they can resort to is quiet quitting. But I think that this is a short-term solution to a long-term problem. And I don't have the answer about how to solve this on a grand scale, but I think that there is a better individual answer or cure instead of quiet quitting. And it's very simple. The cure to quiet quitting is taking control over your finances. Instead of feeling hopeless and needing to quiet quit, start taking steps today to take more control over your finances. Start taking steps today to get out of that paycheck to paycheck cycle. Money's not going to be the solution to all your problems, but it's a good place to start because the thing that keeps you at a job is a paycheck. So instead of embracing this idea of quiet quitting, let's search for a long-term solution instead of quiet quitting. So in this video, I want to talk about 10 tips to cure quiet quitting. Tip number 1, the ball is in their court because money is power. Now, why do we have this problem of quiet quitting? Why isn't there any quick action to make a change? And the reason is because the ball is in the court of the people who have the money. There's a saying that goes, money is power. And the ones who have the money are the ones who make the decisions. If everyone had years of income saved up and said, I deserve better, and quit their jobs, there would be immediate change. But the reality is that most people are living paycheck to paycheck and don't have any options. So that's why there's no quick change. So the first tip that I want to give you to cure quiet quitting is simply understand the power that money has in this world. If you're not desperate for money, people recognize that. If you're desperate for money, people recognize that. This thing of quiet quitting is just purely about money, and the people who have the money are the ones that make decisions. It's not right, but that's how the world works. So start taking steps today to have more control over your finances, because until then, you're just at the whim of the goodwill of other people, and money has no emotions. Tip number 2, if you want real change, you need money. Like I said before, I think that quiet quitting is a short-term solution to a long-term problem. And I personally don't think that quiet quitting is going to make a huge change just because money and corporations don't have any emotion. And if you want real change in your life, then you need money because money gives you options. Money gives you time. Money gives you the ability to say no. When you have money, you have more of a say over your life because you're not at the whim of the goodwill of others because you're not desperate. So my second tip to cure quiet quitting is start taking steps to build an emergency fund, invest, and gain more financial security so you're not trapped in this paycheck to paycheck cycle. And I'm not talking about unrealistic amounts of $1 million, but just enough money to have more security. And what happens when you have more financial security in your life is that you have more confidence. People ultimately treat you better because they know you're not desperate. And financial security is what will give you long-lasting change in your life. Tip number 3, define your job's purpose. From an early age, we're taught to find the job of our dreams because if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. But this is just not true because when something becomes mandatory, it takes away the fun out of it just a little bit. But we need to get out of this frame of mind of thinking that a job is about a passion because this often just leads to disappointment because when you find a job that you're not passionate about, you just feel like a failure. My third tip to cure quiet quitting is just to define your job's purpose. Just because you don't enjoy your job doesn't mean that you're destined for a life of misery. Because a job can have many purposes. I mean, my past job, I didn't enjoy a ton, but I was allowed to save a lot of money with that job. And it ultimately allowed me to quit and pursue this full time and take the risk. And now I'm just trying to keep the lights on, ladies and gentlemen. But a job can have many purposes. So it's important to define the purpose of your job and not feel like a failure if you're not finding passion from it. Tip 4, Spend less so you don't need to make as much. We're always trying to find ways to make more money, whether that's through a raise or a side hustle, and we act like making more money is the only solution to our financial problems. But the reality is that it's very difficult to make $1, but it's very easy to not spend $1. Money is very relative, and how far $1 will go is based on your spending and lifestyle habits. I mean, there are people that are making six figures that still can't make ends meet. My fourth tip to cure quiet quitting is just simply spend less so you don't need to make as much. And when you spend less, you can both save money quicker and your money goes further. I think that people are forced into quiet quitting instead of actually quitting because their living expenses are so high that they can't afford to go without a paycheck. Not to brag, ladies and gentlemen, but my living expenses are so low that I could get a job as a barista and still make ends meet. And it's a great feeling knowing that I don't need to make a lot of money in order to pay my bills. So spend less so you don't have to make as much. Tip number 5, quit the game of consumerism. Consumerism at the level that we're at is a disease, and it's sucking away people's money at an alarming rate. And as I said before, it takes away from your life, your hopes, your dreams, and your freedom. I'm not anti-stuff, but consumerism, most of consumerism is just buying for the sake of buying, for the excitement involved in the purchase. And it doesn't bring value in your life. It creates a need to make more money. My fifth tip to cure quiet quitting is just stop consuming so much, stop wanting so much. There's nothing wrong with stuff, but the rate we're at consumes your money at an extremely alarming level, and it doesn't really give you anything in exchange. Money comes slowly and leaves quickly. We can't always control the pace that the money's coming in, but we do have a lot of control over the pace the money is leaving. I think that when you really boil it down, you can do two things with your money. You can buy stuff, or you can buy freedom. And most of the time, people choose stuff. I don't play the game of consumerism. I rarely buy things because I'd rather save my money and buy my freedom over stuff. So I just say, quit the game of consumerism and value freedom over stuff. Tip number 6, never, ever, ever go below zero. The most dangerous thing that you can do with money is go below zero, which is called debt. And debt is the modern form of slavery where what you're basically doing is you're selling your ability to tell people no. And we have normalized debt in our society thinking that it's just part of life, but it's 100% avoidable. I'm 29 years old, I have never been in debt before, and I even went to college, ladies and gentlemen. Life is way better without debt because even if you don't have much money or stuff, at least you don't owe anything to anybody. My sixth tip to cure quiet quitting is just to never go below zero, because if you can live a life without debt, it's much easier to make a change. Most people are stuck with the only option of quiet quitting because debt limits their options. It limits their ability to say no. So never go below zero, and if you're already below zero, get back up to zero because life is much better without debt. Tip number 7, keep your finances simple. People complicate money so much. People avoid confronting their finances because people think that money is complex. But money is really just 4th grade math. And if you know 4th grade math, you can have complete control over your finances. It's important to take control over your finances because money is as complex as you make it out to be. My 7th tip to cure quiet quitting is just to keep your finances simple. If you don't have money to buy something, then don't buy it. People are forced into quiet quitting because their finances have turned so complex that it limits their options. So keep money simple and your life will be simple. Tip number 8, downsize your life. The thing that keeps people from actually quitting and just quiet quitting is being tied to a paycheck. And as you get older, generally things start to cost more because we get in this habit of upgrading things. And when you think about the norms of how we spend our money as a society, things do not make sense at all. I mean, why do people live in a 4-bedroom house when there's only 2 people living in the house? Why do people have these very expensive car payments when they can't afford the car? My 8th tip to cure quiet quitting is downsize your life. I think that for many people, if you downsize your life, your quality of life will improve because with that comes less responsibility and less worries. Like I said before, when you spend less, you don't need to make as much money. These things that society tells us that improve our quality of life, like big houses and cars, I think actually worsen our quality of life. And when you get rid of them, it opens up a lot of options in life because you don't need to make as much money. Tip number 9, stop caring about what others think of you. So many people are forced into tough financial positions just simply because they're keeping up with the Joneses. But I say, keep up with El Agustin. It's a lot easier. Your biggest decisions are, in this video, should I wear the green shirt, or the blue shirt, or the yellow shirt? And then you think, I need some more shirts. My 9th tip to cure quiet quitting is just stop caring about what other people think about you. Live a more minimalist life. Stop upgrading things all the time and be more frugal. It's really that simple. People don't care about what car you drive or how many rooms you have in your house. And even if they did, they're not the ones that are going to deal with the consequences. So do what's best for you, not what makes for a cool Instagram post. Tip number 10, use money as a tool to empower yourself. What I'm trying to say in this video is that money is the key to having more control over your life. Quiet quitting just makes you feel hopeless and puts your fate in the hands of someone else. Things need to change regarding pay, benefits, and work-life balance, but I don't know if they'll actually ever change. They could, but you're putting your fate in the hands of someone else. My final tip to cure quiet quitting is that when you start to have more control over your finances, use it as a tool to empower yourself. This whole thing about quiet quitting is about money, and the people who have the money make the decisions. So start taking steps today to have more control over your finances, downsize your life, be more frugal, live more minimalist, and then you can use that to empower yourself. We're on this planet for a short amount of time, so don't put your fate in the hands of someone else. And with that, muchas gracias, que tenga un buen día, nos vemos, chico.